What's up, everybody? Jackson Fuller here, along with Owen Hassell, and we've reached the finish line of the high school football regular season. We've got one more week left before we begin our playoff storylines, but we got one really big game to talk about this week, Owen. And but before we get into that New Hanover Hoggard showdown, we got to talk a little bit about the Wildcats beating West Brunswick on Friday night at Legion Stadium, 28-7, a game that maybe didn't live up to the hype a little bit, at least on the scoreboard. New Hanover a winner, but it felt like all season New Hanover was the most complete team, and at least on Friday night they went out and proved it.
It was going to be a hurdle for West Brunswick, although defensively that keeps you in any game, and West Brunswick has that. But I think the bigger part was, how long could West Brunswick's defense stay on the field and continue to produce at a high level? Mm-hmm. Could the Trojans get some type of an early turnover with a quick score, something early enough to give its defense the momentum to go, okay, we don't feel like we've got to stop New Hanover 3 and out every single possession because we're going to be on the field a while. And it seemed like as time went on, they were just going to wear down in that respect, and New Hanover was going to pull away.
For the game itself, it's West Brunswick, in a simple sense, was two muffed punts away from it being a one-possession game because New Hanover scored 2 touchdowns off when they got the ball at the 10-yard line. But that doesn't really take into account, I think New Hanover was kind of holding things a little bit back in the second half. Mackay Stanley really didn't play too much. The offense wasn't opened up at all. They were trying to be safe with the football because they knew if they didn't make any big turnovers, they were going to walk away with a win. So maybe the appropriate scoreline is more like a 21-7 game, but New Hanover, I was just really impressed with something, and I wrote about Mackay Stanley and Jaheim Marshall, who didn't have the best games of their season, but those two, their ability to make big plays, it separates the New Hanover offense from any offense here in the area this year because while the Wildcats offense they only mustered 2 successful long touchdown drives. One came off of a big play by Mackay Stanley, and one came off of a long touchdown catch by Jaheim Marshall. And with those 2 weapons, that's kind of been the separation, I think, this year between New Hanover and the rest of the MEC.
It's something that probably New Hanover didn't have last year on offense, which is crazy to think when you have Blake Walston and a number of guys that you can just pass the ball to and make plays. That I think New Hanover's offense is more versatile this year. Mm-hmm. And before the year, we had already discussed, it's going to be very run-based. And, of course, with Jaheim Marshall, Mackay Stanley, Raz Chandler, these guys, they're going to run the ball a lot. And it looks like, for the most part, you're going to stick to that game plan. But you can do enough through the air, too. Yeah. You can keep defenses honest. And New Hanover, like you said, they're just better than anyone else in the area with the whole depth of its offense.
And I think we both might have mentioned this last week. If Chase Nixon was going to have a good game, New Hanover was going to beat West Brunswick because, we got to start giving that kid some props. He's not Blake Walston, no. He doesn't put up the most gaudy numbers in terms of passing yardage, but he's got a really good completion percentage. He hasn't turned the ball over much this year. He's taking care of the offense and also making the big plays when they matter. His 3 touchdown throws were 3 really incredible throws on Friday night where he put it into a tight window that only his receiver could catch it, and they came down with the football. So New Hanover 28-7 winners over West Brunswick. What it means, they clinch the top seed for the 3AA playoffs. They clinch at least a share of the MEC title, although
Hold on.
I know. It's I consider them. When the standings are shown,
just consider them. I think everybody
pretty much, except for the Mid-Eastern Conference, considers them the outright champions already. But if they want to clinch that outright championship, they're going to have to go to Hoggard and beat a team that's had their number the past 2 years. Gosh, I don't remember it right off the top of my head, but it's something like 66 or 70-7 the past 2 years in favor of the Vikings. But Hoggard is coming off one of their worst losses in a long time for that program on the road, 9-7 losers to Topsail. That man, Jose Orellano, he doesn't make too many field goals during the course of the year, but when he does, he makes clutch kicks and made a game-winning field goal as time expired. Owen, are you giving Hoggard any chance to pull off an upset in this one and keep their streak over New Hanover alive?
No.
No? You're not? I'll be a little. I think there's a chance just because of the Hoggard. I mean, I've said it all year. The Hoggard factor in the MEC of how confident they are, and their offensive line and defensive line, I think, is better than New Hanover's. But that's the only place.
Well,
right now.
here's another, because I like to give a little more than just no.
Okay.
I guess for this was Hoggard looking past Topsail for the New Hanover game? That's possible. Even though Hoggard this season, you really shouldn't be looking past anybody. The last couple of years, I would have said, yeah, sure, look past Topsail.
Yeah.
But not this year, and Topsail's had its struggles too late in the year, but it was, I guess, Topsail's last home game, I think, of the year, so there's going to be some excitement. Cody Wallace is always going to be one of the best players on offense in the area. And look what Topsail. It also shows that Topsail hasn't given up on the season by any stretch, because Topsail's had its own concern with injuries and just missing depth in places. To win that game, I know means a ton for just the program. And Hoggard might have been looking past them. I saw a tweet from Craig Underwood this weekend saying, "All me." It's all me, and that's a mark of a good coach too. When the coach will just take it on themselves, even if it was this guy just missed an easy catch for a touchdown or whatever. When the coach just says, "Hey, put it on me. Put it on me. I need to do more. I need to do this more." So you see a lot of people just looking at themselves and also the team as a whole, because it's been trying times if you're at Hoggard and knowing what they have done the past couple of years.
It's been a tough year from start to finish. It started with injuries to Garrett Manning and Jordan Rickey, and you thought, okay, well, maybe at the end of the year they'll start picking it up.
Started to pick it up.
They did, and then Friday night happened, and you brought up two good points that I want to go back and touch on. Was Hoggard looking forward to New Hanover? I won't say who, but some guy, when I was at that Hoggard North Brunswick game at home, there were a couple members of that Vikings team that you heard the word New Hanover pop up, and that game was 2 weeks away. So that's certainly a possibility. And then you bring up Topsail. I mean, they lose their first game of the MEC to a winless Laney, who hasn't won a game other than that Topsail game. They now have an opportunity. If they beat North Brunswick, they're going to finish in third place in the MEC ahead of Hoggard. I mean, they'd finish with the same record as Hoggard if Hoggard were to lose to New Hanover, but they'd have the tiebreaker over them. A phenomenal job by Coach Wayne Inman. That'd be back-to-back third-place finishes for him, and to finish ahead of one of those big Wilmington 4A schools, that would be a huge step in the right direction.
And you're losing Cody Wallace, of course, Noah LaValle, who got hurt first play or two of the game, opening game of the season. Of course, he'll be gone. You're losing some pieces, but you're not losing everything there. And they had a lot of players come out for practice this year. I forgot the number, but it was ginormous, even for a 3A school. Now, Coach Wayne Inman was telling me, well, and they're guys playing football, not football players. Some of these guys coming out. That's okay, though. Yeah. These are numbers, and these are guys who are getting reps right now and probably getting some more time in the games than they expected because of some injuries in places. So there's a lot of good things future-wise for Topsail. Is it a football school now? I'm going to keep asking that question sort of tongue-in-cheek. But at the same point, why can't Topsail be competitive in this year after year, and not just say, well, they had Cody Wallace, well, they had Noah LaValle. Yeah, those are two good players. But they can keep this going. It doesn't have to be next year rebuilding year.
Yeah. Maybe a video we'll do in the off season. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts and maybe somebody else's thoughts. Is what are the ceilings for these kind of the Brunswick and Pender County schools as long as they're in the Mid-Eastern Conferences? Was this 2-year run for Topsail the ceiling where they're going to go something like 16-5 over the past two seasons? Or is there more that they can get to with just the right group of players? And regardless, Coach Inman's done a fabulous job building that program. And Friday night was a peak for that program, I think, beating Hoggard at home on senior night.
Another thing is, what is the ceiling for a school like West Brunswick?
Right.
Brett Hittman's going to be there a while.
Yeah.
I don't see him necessarily wanting to leave or leave. I mean, things can happen. It's life. But second year and what he's done. And, yeah, you're going to lose a player or two on defense, but you still got a lot of younger guys coming up as well. And with this year, guess what those numbers are going to look like for practice starting next season? Oh, my gosh, it's going to balloon. You're going to have some kids coming out that you weren't expecting. Probably some big boys in that school that, I don't really want to play football. Well, they're winning a lot. I like to be on a winner. It's funny how those things happen. I don't think there's really a ceiling for West Brunswick right now. If there's any school that's going to have a heck of a lot of momentum, no matter what happens in the rest of this regular season, this last game, or playoffs, whatever happens, it doesn't matter at this point.
Mm-hmm.
The results have already spoken for themselves.
It's an interesting time in the Mid-Eastern Conference, and we'll stop this part of the conversation on this, but look around the league. West Brunswick, North Brunswick, South Brunswick, Topsail, trajectory up. New Hanover, trajectory up. Hoggard, kind of a transition year, but from last year they're on a little bit of a downward turn. I don't think there's any question they could turn that around. And Ashley and Laney kind of downward. So the schools in Brunswick and Pender County have to feel better for the most part than the schools in New Hanover County about where they're headed in the next couple of years.
Is Ashley downward? I've been a supporter.
That's true. That's true. It's the
you
first
have
year
a new
for Coach
coach, and
it's
he's
just
probably going to get some more players up. You see some excitement and different things with the program, and I know the Ashley's had some injuries this year as well. Mm-hmm. I hate to just say downward right there because of Ashley, because it's winless.
You're right. It's just been a tough year, but
it was going to be a tough year.
Yeah, it's not a surprise at this point. Real quick, West Brunswick, we've speaking about them. They're going to be at home against South Brunswick, who's coming off a 36-0 victory over Ashley. Should be a good defensive battle. I mean, South Brunswick has proven throughout the year that their defense has played well against everybody except for New Hanover, and the Wildcats have shown they can score on anyone. So that should be a fun defensive battle, a little Brunswick County rivalry. South Brunswick, if they could pull off the upset, would finish above 500 this year, which would be a really, really welcome sign for.
And I wouldn't, and I know we just mentioned about West Brunswick being up trajectory-wise, but watch out for this game. Mm-hmm. You can't let one loss be two.
Right.
And I know coaches mention that a lot with a big game and the whole letdown idea, or if you've won from a big game, the letdown. But don't let one loss be two. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's sticking in these kids' heads that, oh gosh, how are we going to get past this part? Well, you're playing a team you should beat in South Brunswick, but it's South Brunswick's likely last game.
I don't know. They might. We'll see. I have no. It's going to be fascinating.
The ADM numbers haven't come out yet,
right?
As far as I know.
No, they haven't,
and they should in the next day or two.
It's going to be really fascinating. We might have 6 playoff teams from the Mid-Eastern Conference if South Brunswick, North Brunswick can vote, and Topsail.
But if you're Rocky Lewis of South Brunswick, you're playing that up, guys. This is a playoff game for us.
They're playoffs.
This is a playoff game for us. Beating West Brunswick almost certainly gets us in the postseason. We've got to have this game. And what will it mean also for its trajectory for next season that, hey, you finished your regular season beating West Brunswick. Good gosh. And if you're West Brunswick, no slip-ups.
Right.
Cannot have any slip-ups at this point. Prove that you're the best team. And this is what Brett Hittman's probably telling his guys too. Prove you're the best team in Brunswick County. Mm-hmm. You haven't proven that yet. You've been state ranked. You've won some big games otherwise. But until you beat South Brunswick, you're not, quote, the best team in Brunswick County. You got to find different motivation each week, and that could be one of them.
Definitely. And then the other team in Brunswick County, North Brunswick, is going to host Topsail. I think after Topsail's win over Hoggard, both of those teams are going to get into the playoffs, but you'd feel a lot better if you won this game. The Scorpions and the Pirates both having phenomenal seasons, considering I think Topsail kind of expected to be here before the Noah Valley injury. After the injury, I don't know if they really knew what they had in store for this season, but both teams looking to close good years on a high note, and that should be a fun game. I mean, look, Topsail's defense has been much maligned all season. Gave up just 7 points to Hoggard last Friday night. They're going to have to put up another pretty good performance against a North Brunswick team that it feels like they either score 7 points or they score about 40 points. And we'll see how that offense performs against the Pirates this week. Regardless, though, I will be at Hoggard on Shipyard for Dylan Dimmick's return to face the Vikings. The first time the New Hanover head coach will go to face the school he was the offensive coordinator at for 10 years. So follow along this Friday night. Yeah, it's at Star News Varsity. It's kind of a crazy Friday night in the area with the big boys from Chapel Hill coming down to face UNCW in basketball, and the final regular season Friday night of football. Rain in the forecast. Let's hope that stays away. And Saturday, the brackets will come out, and we'll have another video next week kind of previewing the playoffs for all of our local teams that qualified. Appreciate you guys watching all year. Thank you very much. As I said, Star News Varsity on Twitter, facebook.com/Star News Varsity on Facebook. And keep it plugged in for all the high school football coverage throughout the rest of the year. Everyone have a good one.